Hey everybody, welcome to episode 62. For this one, we're going to go back to 1985 again, and we're going to talk about radio-controlled cars, specifically Tamiya radio-controlled cars. In summer of 1985, I just gotten out of 6th grade, Mr. Camley's class, at North Hill Elementary in Rochester. I only did 2 years there because I was at Woodward, but then Woodward, which was like an ancient elementary school, ended up shutting down, and we had to go over to North Hill at 5th grade. So I'm at the end of my elementary school tour, which back then went to 6th grade. You know, it wasn't called middle school when you went to, 6th grade, and you didn't have 6th through 8th. Back then it was kindergarten through 6th, and then you went to junior high school. It's called a junior high, and it was 7th through 9th. Of course, when I did switch from 8th to 9th, as I told you before, when I went to Ruther, that's the first year that they switched everything. So they put 9th through 12th at the high school, which my freshman year was at the high school. So I only got to do 2 years of junior high, which kind of sucked because, it was rough my 7th grade year, but my 6th, which is this year we're pretty much talking about, but my 8th grade year I liked a lot. I would like to have had a 9th before going off to high school, but it's not what happened. So let's go back. I don't know why I had to give you the brief primer, but just in case you were wondering. So let's go back to 1985 summer. Just got out of 6th grade, free for the summer. Have to look forward to going to junior high in the in the fall. Which I started at West. So all that kind of plays into this, though. So I lived downtown Rochester with my mom, and then my dad at that time kind of lived in various places at that time. It was kind of a weird... He was in flux, let's just put it that way, at that point. But I still lived with my mom. We lived downtown in Wilcox, downtown Rochester, which was, not very far from the high school. And of course that plays into, Joe's Hobby Shop. I keep talking about it in all the other videos, whether it's the miniature videos or what, Dungeons and Dragons. But Joe's Hobby Shop opened up that summer at, in 85 there, right across from the high school, next to in the Kroger shopping center. I think it was called it has a name to it, that shopping center. It's still there today, but I think the Kroger's there, but very few things are the same there. The high school is still across the street. But anyways, Joe's is gone. Joe's Hobby Shop started there in 85, so I think they went out of business. I don't know if they went out of business or they just left that area, I want to say sometime in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s is when they went out there. So they lasted for a pretty good amount of time. But remember, this is all pre-internet, so hobbies were big, and again, this is going back to, we're right in the middle of the 80s, in 1985. Now you got to think, you're starting junior high. You don't want anybody to know you play with toys anymore. So you had to pretty much, for me, for the most part, I still did, and I still collect. I never really played with them, but I still bought them and collected them. It, kept going, but you really had to keep it on the down low. So in order to get into anything at that time, going into junior high, it had to be cool. It had to be something that all the other kids were doing. It had to be cool. I still kick myself for not getting into playing music at that time early, and I don't know why. I was talking to my son the other day. It's like, I don't understand why nobody even brought it up back then. I didn't think about it. My parents never thought about it. My sister, my friends, nobody ever said like, hey, you like music, why you should get a guitar or a bass or whatever, or drums, and start playing a musical instrument. I guess I thought about it, but I think I was still burnt so much from that 5th grade band when I tried to play the saxophone. I played it for like 6 weeks and quit. And I got just so frustrated and angry with it that I quit. I think I was burnt so bad from that I was still, I still didn't have the confidence, and still was insecure about trying to start playing an instrument. It's just too daunting back then to me as a kid then. So I think that's probably what happened. I'm not sure. Like I said, looking back, I'm like going, I'm surprised I never did. I mean, it wasn't until I was in high school that that started to happen. So again, so that was kind of out. So you had to do something that had to be cool. I wanted to play sports, and I joined the Rochester Redskins, which was this football team of non-school football team club, and I didn't last very long on that. I got fed up with that after a few practices. I don't even think I made it to a game. I didn't like all the running. I couldn't read and I can't run. So I just couldn't run very well, and I hated running. So I think there was just too much running, and I was like, I'm done with this. So I got out of that, and again looking for something, and then Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it was there still, but that was still kind of, I don't know, still kind of frowned upon, or maybe it's the satanic panic, or maybe it's just people still thought it was still inherently childish or something, so that it was hard to kind of morph that into something cool going into junior high. So you had to pick something cool. And there were pretty much two things that I got into in junior high. One I may do a video on, but again, I don't own any, and I don't plan on buying any anytime soon because I'm not going to kill myself. With skateboarding, we already did BMX. We already had BMX bikes and freestyle bikes and all that stuff. That stuff's been around. We all had that, so that wasn't something new to get into. I mean, I think even at that summer, I think I got a new bike too. Like I got another Predator. Or I can't remember what I got. I think I did get a Predator that year, the freestyle blue Predator. But skateboarding was catching on big and cool. And again, skateboarding. There was a new store that opened up in Winchester Mall called West Coast Connections, which is I've seen a place that's kind of like that nowadays in our mall here in Saginaw, but it's not really the same thing. They just sold like West Coast style clothes. It was pretty much Pacific Sunwear type of place. It was called West Coast Connections, and they had all the skateboards on the back wall of the decks and stuff. And this plays into the radio control cars, trust me. But I originally I wanted to get into that because I saw like the Tony Hawk skateboard and the Steve Caballero, all the Bones Brigade and Powell and Peralta. I wanted to get into that summer, which I ended up doing, but I wanted, that was also, Joe's Hobby Shop opened up. When we went there, the same thing. We kind of was just taken aback by all of the, again, the top row of stuff were all of these radio control cars in these big, cool boxes with these really cool illustrations on the cover. And there were the entire Tamiya line at the time, which was a company from Japan, a modeling company who also does radio control cars. They still exist today. They still make Tamiya radio control cars, as I'll show you. But this whole world, I didn't know this world even existed until this summer, and so I saw those, and I was like, oh my gosh! Of course, I fell in love with the ones I wanted to get, and I'll show you those. And the funny thing was, I took my dad in there, and and like I said, this was kind of a weird time for my dad, so. I also got into got into ninjutsu and I was really avidly reading Black Belt magazine and reading it per se, looking at the pictures pretty much, and I wanted to be a ninja. I thought that was the coolest. It was 1985. It was the golden age of the ninja. Revenge of the Ninja just came out, or it had been out. It was first time I saw it was in '85 on videotape on VHS. And so I wanted to be a ninja, I wanted to ride a skateboard, and I wanted to get into radio control cars. So we're there at Joe's Hobby Shop, and I guess the easy way to explain this, if you're not in the know, is just to show you the various components. So imagine this. Imagine you just see a whole bunch of these. A whole bunch of these boxes with this nice white. Again, I'm all about aesthetics. This white, stark white box with this cool, got this cool graphic, the grasshopper, and you got this awesome illustration of the radio control car. with the little guy inside and everything. And it's up, and there's just a whole slew of these across the top of the display counter. And this is actually right next to where all the Dungeons and Dragons stuff was, and the miniatures. Right next door, wedged in between D&D and radio control airplanes and boats, and I never got. That was, wasn't going to get into that. Right in between was the radio control car stuff. And then it had these all across the top there. And then they had like all the tires and all the various, because you could buy every single component separately in its, and hop-up parts and, customization parts, replacement parts, all with part numbers and, parts bags and stuff all on the back there. The glass counter was filled with all the radio control units, and I'll get to these in just a second. All the radios and chargers and battery packs and all the other accoutrements. And there were some cars that were put together inside there for display. And I was just like, I was blown away. This was like, oh my God, I got to get into this. So I took my dad in there, and I showed him all these cars, and I picked out the one I got, which was not the Grasshopper, by the way. And I said, Dad, I want to get one of these. And he said, well, how much are they? So we looked at the prices, and the one I wanted was $90 at the time. Now you remember, this is 1985. $90 in 1985. Now if you go by like Masters of the Universe, right, or G.I. Joe, the flag was $90 or $100, whatever it was, like $99.99. Eternia playset was $89.99, and those were unheard of for a kid to get, right? So you got to think $90 is like, whoa. And my dad literally was, whoa. He was like, I don't know. These are pretty expensive. He says, I don't even know if you can you do any of these? Obviously my dad didn't have any faith that I could put one of these together. And I'm like, yeah. I said, I'll do it. I was just begging. I wanted these things. And he was very skeptical. And then what heightened his skepticism is when the guy says, well, I don't want to scare you off to the hobby. He says, obviously I can see this is, these things are a little expensive, so, it's a concern to you. However, you got to keep this also in mind, and this might be the deal breaker, and it almost was the deal breaker. He says, this is just the car, just the kit. You get the chassis, you get the, the clear, I can't remember what the plastic's actually called, but the clear body that you paint. You get the tires, you get the suspension, you get the motor, you get the transmission box. However, you don't get the radio, which is the remote control. This is a transmitter, and then there's a receiver, which mine's already in the car. There's a receiver box that's in the car, and there's servos, and there's a battery pack, and there's there's a speed control, and I'll also get to that because that might be a little complicated. But you had to get one of these, and I don't even think this fine spec, this is a newer one, this fine spec, I'm sure they had them, but most of the radios they had in their box were also kind of from the same distributor. They would get like the radio control airplane stuff, which were all like 4, 6, 8 channel radios. I didn't need anything like that. I needed a 2-channel radio, which basically had 2 channels. You had a steering servo, you had a throttle control, and the most of them were Fatuba, which is a company, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's another company. It's a Japanese company as well, but they did radios called Fatuba, and I think there's another brand that I can't remember exactly what they had, but Fatuba was the big one. The Tamiya fine specs and the Tamiya radios were available back then, but they weren't common, so we didn't see these. And the pistol grip ones is what you were supposed to get, but I didn't like the pistol grip. I liked the sticks, just like the airplanes or the boats. The sticks, I just found that better. So I wanted to get one of those. And of course, like the standard, a Fatuba 2-channel with the sticks, or the one, this was about $75. So my dad's like, now wait a minute, you spend $90 on a kit, and then you got to spend $75 for this radio unit. And he's like, and there's more. And he's like, oh Christ. So on top of it, in order to power this thing, you needed a 7.25 volt battery pack, which is basically 6 C-cell batteries, all, you know, they're all soldered together in this nice little pack. And these at the time weren't super expensive. These ran about $10 at the time. Now they're about 25, 30 for a good one. They all have different specs on them too. I'll kind of touch on that too because it plays into something that was difficult at the time. But we also need a remote now, a charger to charge this battery. You need a specific trickle charger. Essentially, this is what you put for like an automotive car. A trickle charger, like a 2-amp trickle charger to keep your battery tendered. Essentially, that's what this is. But and again, this would be a very advanced one back then. The ones back then weren't this advanced, and the ones back then usually had a wind-up timer on it, and they had what's called discharge. Now this is not the same battery. It's I'm trying to think it's got a technical term and I can't remember what it is. It's basically, I know that the old ones were called nickel cadmium. Now this set, which would have been cool back then, comes with the radio. It also comes with a charger, a wall, just an adapter charger, quick charger, and a nickel cadmium battery comes in this set. I don't use this in there because nickel cadmium batteries have to be discharged, meaning they don't have battery memory. So if you don't discharge them completely down before you charge them again, you'll melt them. You will literally melt them. They'll catch on fire. And that happened to me a couple of times because I got impatient and I didn't want to wait the time to discharge it. I just started, and you only got about 15 minutes of runtime back then. These now last you about half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour you'll get out of this charge. But back then, 15 minutes is about all you got of runtime, and it went quick. And then in order to, unless you had 2 packs, you couldn't be charging one while you were running. Now I've got 2 packs now, so I can charge while I'm running, but back then you couldn't. Sorry, this one's all whipping around. That was expensive to be able to do that, because just getting one was lucky enough, and so you had to discharge it. And if you just ran it and on the charger and it wasn't completely discharged, even though the car doesn't run anymore and you essentially feel like the battery's dead, it's not completely discharged, and then you overcharge it, you melt the battery. Did it twice. One time was pretty nasty. I mean, it pretty much caught on fire. The other one, the other problem with that time is the charger that I ended up getting didn't have it didn't have a plug to plug into an outlet. The only way to charge it was to either put some alligator clips on the positive and negative, because it basically had a cigarette lighter plug, a DC plug. You'd be at the whims of somebody who would let you into their car. I got into a lot of sketchy people's car at the trailer park when my dad ended up moving out to Hidden Lakes Estates. A lot of cars that smelled like a lot of strange things. Pot, BO, you name it. Mold. A lot of people, a lot of alcoholics and a lot of druggies with pretty nasty cars. I would ask them, hey, can I charge something in your car? They're like, okay, what? So I'd get in there and use their cigarette lighter for 15 minutes in their crazy car, and charge up my thing. And of course I had to discharge it, and I got that's one of the times I had an incident. Basically I melted the battery down on the front seat of someone's car. They were not happy, and it was difficult. It was hard. And my dad knew nothing about this stuff. And for the most part, I didn't have any close, immediate friends that were into this stuff. So they weren't there to help. Their parents weren't there to help me either. I had to learn all this stuff on my own. And, to my, to my detriment sometimes. So that's all. They have that stuff now, but for the most part, everybody uses these. And these have battery memory. You can charge this. You can run this for 5 minutes. And then just throw it on the trickle charger and it'll tender it back up to full. You don't have to discharge these. They're pretty nice and convenient. You got 2 of them. One's charging while you're up running, right? And then you come back and swipe versa. You can pretty much run all afternoon. And these things barely get warm. and they barely heat up, and you really don't have, you have more chance of burning out your motor in your car than you do having an issue with these batteries. Sorry, excuse me. And this charger also plugs into the wall, which is nice. So no more getting into cars and that stuff. Like I said, the reason I learned about the battery check was we had, you're all rednecks out there, and the one guy in his shed, he was charging his trolling motor for his fishing boat that he had out there for the lake that's out there, and he said, "Hey, come here, I'll show you a trick." And he took 2 alligator clips, he put it on that thing, and he hooked it up to his deep cycle battery, and he ran, and I could charge off his deep cycle battery. And he says, "Don't worry about the car thing." He says, "If you want to use that, just come knock on my door. I'll take you out there and we'll use this." He worked midnights, and he used to drink all day, so he was home. So anyways, I went out and I used his battery in his shed, and he showed me how to do that. So one person finally showed me a trick. Like I said, there's a few of the rednecks out there showed me how to redneck, how to, what do you call it? What's the term? Redneck mechanic. This term's escaping me. The thing you'd call jerry rig it, or yeah, whatever. But anyway, so some people showed me. My dad knew how to do none of this stuff. My dad was really good at doing taxes and getting in trouble with the government. That's what my dad taught me. So anyways, so yeah. So pretty much you're looking at that as a kid, and you're not talking about paint to put this thing together, to paint the body, which isn't really expensive. It's a little can of spray paint will do you. But to put this together, then 90, 75, like 25, let's just make it an even $200, right? $200 then. My dad had just bought me that Predator bike, and that was $200. He got that at the King's Bikes and Things downtown Rochester, and he was regretting buying that. He's like, "We spent way too much money on this bike." So, and I hit him with this. He was livid. He was like, "I'm not doing it." So I didn't get it right away. So what happened was, the guy at the hobby shop, obviously feeling a little sorry for me, he goes, "Well," he says, "there's a lot of people that sell them used, and there's a bunch of phone numbers up on this cork board in the front of the store." He says, "There might be somebody selling one used. You probably get it for half the price." And so that's what we ended up doing. We ended up calling a number. Guy wanted $125 for the whole shebang, and he had the car I wanted, which was the Frog. I'll show you the pictures of that in a few minutes. I don't have the Frog. They still make the Frog. I still would like the Frog, but obviously, I can't buy everything. And I've had this for a while, and I've got my use out of it. So, and this is a gift from my friend. The friend that got me pretty much everything. The friend that got me, the Dark Tower. The friend that got me the Micronauts book. He also gifted me with this, and the only reason he got the Grasshopper, I think he found a deal on it online, and he said he thought that I had the Grasshopper, but I was like, "No, I had the Frog," which isn't a big deal, but the Frog was a more expensive kit than this. This was pretty much your basic entry level kit, was the Grasshopper, and I'll get to that and what I did. And then I ended up buying the radio and the rest of the stuff on Amazon, to complete it. And that was about 5 years ago. So I've had this for 5 years. I've definitely got my money and my friend's money use out of this thing. And it still runs today, although these haven't been charged in a while. So, like I said, they're pretty reliable, but these might need to be replaced. But I'm going to charge them up, see if they can be really replaced. You also have to put 4 AA's in the receipt and the transmitter, and right now it doesn't have any in it, so I need to get those. But so here's mine, and I'll tell you why it looks different than the box. They're I think they're 1/12 or they're 1/10. I think these are 1/10 scale cars, I believe. And most of them were buggies. Now there were, I'll get to those. There were some that weren't buggies, but most of them were buggies or trucks or some kind of monster trucks, that type of thing. And essentially, the Grasshopper shares the same chassis with a car called the Hornet. Now, I like the looks of the Hornet better than the Frog. The Frog's body I destroyed right away. It's made out of a hard ABS plastic, and when these things flip 5-6 feet in the air, when you hit a jump or you hit something wrong, or you hit a pebble and they launch, the body's just shattered. So right off the bat, the body with the Grasshopper went, and then I had to get a new body. And the newer bodies are flexible, different. It wasn't the hard shell plastic. This is the body would come in the Hornet. That you'd get same car, you get the Hornet, so it would fit on the Grasshopper's chassis. The only difference between the Hornet and the Hornet and the Grasshopper underneath is the Hornet has the hopped up suspension, which has oil dampeners, as these are just spring dampeners. These are just basic, simple, I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a spring for the suspension. This all has, it doesn't have independent suspension all around, and that's also a point. So it has these two shocks in the back. Alright, so the springs suck. The springs are terrible, and that's why you'll have cars launch into orbit when you hit a bump. But for the most part, the oil ones are a lot better, and the suspension system in general was better on the Hornet. So that's the hop-up parts you get, and you get the different body. You also get different tires. The original tires are buried in the box right now, but the tires for the Grasshopper suck too as well. The Grasshopper also came with a smaller stock engine, which was really slow. But the reason it's slow, and the reason that it was a beginner car, and it wasn't made to go stupid fast, so you didn't have to worry about crashing it too much and breaking the body, and you didn't have to worry about spinning the tires too much, because the engine wasn't that powerful. But of course, right away, I'm like, oh, I'm not going with the smaller engine. I'm getting the standard engine hopped up. So I ended up buying this one, which also was out back in the day. I had a few of these as a kid. This is a Sport Tune engine, which has a lot more torque, and just a faster engine. And so even with that engine, I launched this thing. So, of course, now that I've got it's sort of built up to the Hornet, although I do not have, even though I got the Hornet's tires on it, I don't have the Hornet suspension. It still has the Grasshopper suspension, so putting this in it, which is what's currently in it now, the Super Stock, which is an even hop-up engine from that engine, is, motor. Motors are electric, motors are motors, engines are gasoline, just if you wanted to know that. But I put this hop-up motor in there. I don't know if you can see it there. So it's got the cool anodized metal on it. And these most of them are plug and play, not a lot of soldering. Back in the day, you had to solder a lot of stuff, but a lot of times the positive and negative leads on most modern engines, they already come with the bullet clips. It's just plug and play, no soldering. Yeah, and then of course there's the battery. My battery door launched somewhere, and I don't know where that's at either. You can get a replacement of that, but I zip tied it in because I can take the body off or pull the cords through the window and charge it that way. But that's my car currently. Again, I've kind of turned it into the Hornet, but it's technically a Grasshopper. So it's got the crazy, stupid engine in it. I mean, this is not the fastest engine. Their engine's even crazier than this. This is like a midline engine. It makes this thing almost you can't even keep it on the ground hardly, and the thing is just flying all over the place. But that's the fun, is making it stupid fast. And of course, here's that fine spec. It's a pistol grip. I've gotten used to the pistol grips, but as a kid I couldn't wrap my head around the pistol grip. I wanted the thumbstick ones, but that's the new one now. Like I said, it's out of batteries at the moment. I also don't have the antennas like they used to anymore. Like I said, just overall the technology in these are a lot better. Maybe I won't get into the speed control thing. That might be a little more technical than you want to know. But just we had a mechanical speed control in the old ones, which is a pain in the ass, and it also had heat sinks. And the heat sinks were usually mounted in the back of the car over the transmission. And as a dumb kid, most times you should grab the car here and hold it like that. But dumb me would always grab it from the back and put my hand right into that heat sink. And it's a heat sink for a reason. It's where all the heat dissipates. And it's ceramic, so it's not red hot, but it's probably a good 500 degrees. And you put your hand right into that. I don't know how many times they burnt the shit out of me grabbing the car. You think I would learn the first time it did bit me that I would, grab it from the front? Nah, I'll burn my hand again. Burnt my thumb a couple of times. Is it hot? Yeah, it's hot. It's like touching a catalytic converter. I mean, it's like it instantly burns your finger or your hand. They don't have those anymore. All the heat sinks are dissipated on the speed control, and they rarely get that hot. And they're internal. So before we had this mechanical speed control, which also required another servo. So now most of these just come with one servo, a high torque servo for the steering servo, which you can't see, but it's in the car right now. And then they would come with the other one for the speed control. But now they have an electronic speed control, and they've been out for a while. I'd say 30 years. And since like the 90s they got popular, the electronic speed controls. And they're programmable, and they're a lot better than the old system. So they're safer, they're more reliable, they're less prone to, craziness. The technology on these, even though these are technically the same kits as they were back in 1985, and of course they were older than that. That's just when we started seeing them. Now they come with, and they have little stickers on. We come with electronic speed controls now. They don't come with the old parts. So let me just put some of this stuff over here. So yeah, so you can get carried away buying a lot of stuff for these. And some people have multiple cars. There are other companies out there. Traxxas is one that comes to mind. HPI, I think, is still around. I think it was called HPI. Team Losi, Team Associated. There's other companies, English companies, British companies, American companies, Japanese companies that put these things out, and they're all different. It's a whole world. It is a whole world, and I'm not really necessarily super into that world. But I do like I'm very nostalgic for this thing because it's not the exact car I had, but it's the same series of cars that I had when I was a kid. Now let me switch over here. We're going to go to, I don't know if you can see a little better picture of that one, but this is the car that I wanted, and that's the box that was up there on top of the, at Joe's Hobby Shop. And that's what I wanted. For some reason, I thought the pink and white was cool because they had a Hutch BMX ultralight that was pink and chrome, and for some reason, pink's probably the most effeminate color. It was like you were super cool if you could in the 80s if you wore you had like a baby blue or a pink bike, because it just showed you how you're so awesome that it didn't matter that it was a feminine color. Does that make sense? It was the 80s. Everybody was weird. There's a little picture. That's from the catalog there. And as you can see, this little balloon, these little rubber balloons, that's the old speed control right there. And there's those, there they are right there. See where they're at? Those are ceramic, and those get hot, super hot. And if you grab the back of that car and you put your thumb or your hand right on that, your hand's done. Yeah, you're going to be hurting for a little while. So, and there's, of course, you can see the servos in there. This is gone now. This electronic speed control. Now it's just this little digital box that fits in there. And there are other cars. Subaru, that's one, the Subaru Brat shares the same chassis as this Frog. Now the Frog was a more advanced car. It had four-wheel independent transmission. It had a different type of gearbox. It had, shock, well, this shows the springs here, but they also have the oil dampeners inside. So this is more, advanced of a car. And this is the one I technically had as a kid. And this thing was, but it still had its host of problems, and it would still launch into orbit if you hit the wrong thing wrong. That was a big car. It was one of the first all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive buggies, the Hot Shot, and then they have a Super Shot. Now there's the Hornet. I always loved the drawings, just so cool. But the Hornet was what I didn't necessarily want the Hornet, but I liked the Hornet better than the Grasshopper, so I ended up turning the Grasshopper into the Hornet. Now, here is, I've got this already pulled up. My buddy still has this copy of this. I think I had 2 copies of this at the time, but this is the 1985 Tamiya catalog. You could buy these for like $3 or $4 at Joe's Hobby Shop. Some places you could even get it for free, but it was a catalog, and this was better than the Sears wish list at this time, and this is the type of thing you'd sit on the toilet for hours until your legs go numb, just dreaming of getting everything in this catalog. Like I said, I don't know how many hot, sticky summer days there in 1985 I sat on my dad's couch at the trailer, roasting and pouring through this as sweat pours down your face onto your thing because you have no air conditioning and you've got just this giant fan pointing at you. But I've already got this pulled up, so I'm going to pull this up here. This is a PDF of it. There's a Hot Shot on top and the cover. I just love this cover too. It shows like this, break apart and all the different pieces in there. And then there's every single part of the Hot Shot kit. They have it all laid out there. So you can see what you're getting into. Now this is the 4-wheel drive kit, so this is going to have a lot more kit parts. And this also has this more pipe, this different chassis that you kind of had to assemble. The other ones are called bathtub chassis or bucket chassis because they're a little simpler, and I'll show you those. They had these cars. So also, what are we doing in time? So anyways, also at the back of the Winchester Mall in Rochester, remember where the movie theater was I was telling you about, where I saw pretty much everything? There was a club that would meet back there in the early 80s. This was back when Trackside Hobbies, who also carried the stuff before Joe's was in existence, downtown Rochester. A lot of the people would run gas cars. Now that's an electric car. There's no gas cars in this book that I know of. I don't think there is. These are all electric. But they were running like these Can-Am gas cars in the back of the... they had a track set up and everything. And there's a lot of people there, and they kind of had their little pit stops, little pit shops, like on the back trunks of their car. They're all working on their cars, and most of them were adults. It was the early '80s, so there's probably plenty of members only jackets and trucker hats going around there. But probably a lot of Miller High Life T-shirts too. But anyways, my dad would go watch those, and I was like stunned by those. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool! I want one of those!" And eventually, started to get into this. They got a little older. There's also a boat club. They would do remote control boats downtown Rochester at the municipal park at the duck pond. A club would go down there and run the boats. So it was, like I said, this is before the internet. This is when hobbies and this stuff was common for especially adult men to do. A lot of clubs and stuff. Now they exist today, and there's different places you can go. It's not like this stuff's not heard of today, but I think the internet has killed so much of this hobby, and just the cost of everything is so astronomical now, and some of the prices on these things, and not a lot of people have any disposable income. It's mostly old retiree dudes, they're especially putting together like the airplanes and the boats, because those are unheard of expensive. But this stuff too, I don't really see the kids really getting into that. My son, I asked him around school, and there's a couple of kids that have heard or had a remote control car, but nobody's really into this hobby as the hobby. Maybe 1 or 2 kids has a Traxxas. Most kids have a Traxxas. Those are pretty readily available, at certain places and stuff. But like most of the hobby shops around here are all closed down. Nobody's buying into this stuff. So this stuff is kind of a dying hobby. But that said, if I really go get into it, you'll probably have a lot of people doing it, but just I perceive it as being dead because I don't really know many people doing this stuff anymore. This book was all in English, but this is from a Japanese company, and Tamiya has a very, very manga a little manga. This is before I even knew what manga was. You know, all the characters look very manga-esque. There's the type of controller that I liked. It talks about the chargers, and it also tells you about, you know, the safety, what, you know, the nickel cadmium battery packs, and how you have to do that. And I didn't read any of it. I couldn't read. You know, there's the Grasshopper unbuilt. That's how mine came too. And there's that chassis. That's mine is definitely gone to RC heaven. But I just, and you know, they give you how to basically learn how to drive the car, and how to take turns, and how to slow down. If you want to go fast, you have to learn to slow down. I know it's counterintuitive, but you know, you got to learn how to actually feather the throttles and stuff. You can't just balls out. It's just like those slot cars. You can't balls out, hold the gun down the whole time, expect the thing not to launch into the bathroom. So, same thing with these things. If you don't want their car to hit a pebble and launch into orbit, you know, then you got to learn how to slow down. And as a kid, you want straight on, balls out. You don't know what, you have no idea what finesse is. And that's how you end up wrecking a lot of these expensive cars. But I always see these pictures and stuff, and look at, there's some American kids, and they all have trucker hats. A lot of trucker hats there. But it's just like, oh, it's a whole world of like people that are, you know, into stuff. And I was in the Boy Scouts at the time, and some of the Boy Scouts kids had stuff. Once I eventually got to junior high, a few of the kids at junior high had them. You know, and it kind of became a thing that summer, and I really got into it. I'm sure I had a couple of bad experiences that are probably, you know, mentally blocking out of my head right now, because normally I'd remember everything, but I must have had some bad experiences I don't want to recall in my head, which caused me to get out of this stuff very quickly. One of them definitely burning the seat of a neighbor's car. You know, was a setback. Burning your hand constantly is a setback. I think I had problems with the car where I ended up breaking parts of it and couldn't find replacement parts. A lot of bullying too. A lot of kids, you know, it's just how kids are today. Same with my son. Everybody wants to flex on each other. Everybody wants to basically, it's Lord of the Flies. You know, every kid wants to outdo the other kid. They want to be the fastest shredder in the guitar. They want to be the best, have the fastest, most expensive car. Everybody, it's a pecker contest for kids. And, you know, and that, of course, that leads to bullying. It leads to a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of fist fights, you know. It's young boys, you know. We're animals, so that's how we work. So, you know, getting into like I said, getting into the hobby, I've got a lot of repressed memories from the 80s. They've said as great as everybody loves the 80s, I think people also got to realize nostalgia is a two-way street. For as many good memories as you have as a kid, you know, growing up in a certain time period, for us it was the 80s, and that was the golden age of everything. There's a lot of stuff that you probably are mentally blocking out of your head. Bad things that happened, very bad things that happened, that, you know, you got to realize that, you know, being an adult or being older, being out of certain situations, right, you have more peace of mind and contentment that you probably, you know, you wouldn't have if you were back in those times. So it wasn't all, you know, everything wasn't peachy clean and whatever I'm trying to say. You know, everything wasn't perfect in those time periods, so there's a lot of bad. I think there's probably more bad than there was good, and you got to remember how much good you can think of. Double that. That's how much bad there was. Yeah. So this catalog was. I mean, I just go over this catalog all the time. Never really read it because remember I couldn't read, but you know, I was just like, oh my gosh, oh, they got all the cool cars. They're all set up, and they're all going to race, and I just thought that was the neatest thing in the world. I'm just going to get to the cars here. So here are the car kits, and this is what I used to just pour over. I wanted this Porsche so bad as a kid. It was at the Joe. They had it at Joe's. It was about the same price as the other one, but they had the foam tires. This was an indoor carpet track car. This wasn't for cement. You run this on the cement, and you will launch this car into orbit and destroy it. These are for carpet. And of course, the problem with carpet also is you've also got wood, you know, barriers too. So you'd smack these cars into the, well, if you sucked, you'd smack them into the wood barriers a lot and beat up the body pretty good. But, you know, usually protected the inside of the car. You watch these cars nowadays, they go so lightning fast. I could not, I tried. I tried as an adult, try to get into these carpet cars, and I just don't have the hand-eye coordination. My brain doesn't work that fast. These cars are lightning fast, and the people are just whipping around these carpet tracks, not hitting the walls. And I couldn't do it. I can't do it. You know, again, my brain doesn't work that fast. I've got a lot of lead in my brain. You know, I don't have a lot of great hand-eye coordination. You know, everything I do is slow. There's the Lancia Delta. That was a sweet car. They had the rally cars in here. Yeah, there's a rally cars. That was big. You know, obviously European, Japanese circuit. A lot of the rally cars are big. There's the Grasshopper. There's the body off of it. There's the Hornet. As you can see, it's pretty much the same thing, except for you can tell that the transmission, the suspension is completely different, and this is the upgraded suspension. There they are in some action shots. I love the action shots. Just love that look. Like I said, the Hornet, I just like black, and I love black, yellow, and red and orange. I like that kind of, you know, sunburst kind of look, that flamey kind of look. I love that. You know, so there's the super shot. So it's a hot shot. There's a hot shot without some of the body pieces on. Now, like I said, this is a completely different type of car. This is the super, not super advanced, but this is one of the more advanced cars. And then there's the Frog. That's the one I had. That's the one was my car. I had two Frogs in my days. I had one I got in the '85. I bought the used one, and the other one is from when I was senior in high school. I bought one off of my buddy who had one. So I got another one, and I was playing around with it. Again, it's just a hobby. It's something I could tinker with. I wasn't gonna race it or get into the craziness. Super Champ, that was a metal one. There's the Subaru Brat. Wild Willie was a big one. I don't like it because it's basically a one-trick pony. It's the same chassis as this Mitsubishi. It would just do lots of wheelies. It would flip over a lot. I mean, it looked cool. I liked the little guy in it. I always thought the little guys looked really cool in it. It's kind of cartoony. I thought Wild Willie looked cool. There's some more action shots of the cars. Okay, now this thing was crazy. I mean, to buy one of these then and get all the stuff that you need for it, because it takes a specific battery and just the kit alone, this thing you probably spend about $500 back in the day. So nobody really had them except my one buddy had one, which he ended up actually trading me. I think I traded him that Hohner guitar I had, that Steinberger. I think I ended up trading him for this and another car. Or maybe it was my Stratocaster I traded for him for this. But yeah, I ended up getting this off of him because I always wanted it. But back in the day, I wanted it, and you know, you had to be rich, or your dad had to really, really, really be overindulging their kids to buy this one. I wanted it. Yeah, it was a four-wheel drive. It had a gearbox. It actually had gears. You could change. You had a high, low, and just like your real pickup truck. It had a high, low, and two-wheel drive. You could switch it back, so you could get yourself out of some binds of. It was essentially a four-wheel drive, Toyota, whatever the truck is at the time. I can't remember. What are those Toyotas? I can't remember what they're called. Tacoma. They had the Fast Tech, which is also the same as as a non-military version of this too. That was the other car I got with the deal with the Bruiser. But then they have tanks, and I wanted to get in. The tanks is that's another very expensive whole other hobby. Old guy hobbies. That's what we had a place called Old Guard Hobby too, and we always nickname it Old Guy Hobby because a lot of this stuff is for old guys. It's for old retired men. Especially when men that been in the military or had, done something, did something in their real life, not just play with toys like we did. you know, the Gen X kids. These are from people from a different generation. Actually did real things. You know, flew airplanes. You know, fought a bunch of, you know, German soldiers on, you know, those kind of guys. They you know, they were, you know, their retirement, they'd get into these crazy hobbies and stuff and actually know how to do things. Sorry, I'm just just being hyperbolic, but yeah, I always thought these are really cool. Panzer tank, it's just so cool. Some various paint jobs and stuff. So yeah, this catalog was, there's the different cars: buggy car, carpet car, another buggy car. Talk about the engines. I think quick charger. You know, the NiCad batteries. Like I said, the newer batteries weren't out at this time when this catalog was out. Talks about, you know, the Tamiya paints that you would use to paint the bodies. What you do is you paint the inside of the body and you put stickers down to cover the windows to mask it off, and you paint the inside of the body so that the paint wouldn't rub off when you got hit, and it would be shiny. It would always have a gloss, and then you put the stickers on the outside of the body. That was how you made them look cool, and that's pretty much how this was made. All the stickers are on the outside. You know, they've gotten torn up since I've been driving it, but then you spray paint the inside, and it comes with masks that are cut the shape to mask out the windows. And then they got, you know, like this one has a sticker. Some people just paint it silver, but you can make the roll bars. This, like I said, this one had stickers. So, you know, you had paint pens and you had various things. I mean, Tamiya had all this stuff. I mean, this was I used some Tamiya stuff. Remember that miniatures that I tell you about? My friend who made the, you know, my buddy who painted the green, what do you call it? Space Marine. That was that was a Tamiya paint. It's like I said, they're nice acrylic paint. There it shows you how to set these up. And like here, stock numbers and hop-up parts and replacement parts. You know, there's that. I think that's the Sport Tune. The black motor is the Sport Tune motor. Let's see if the RS 540 black motor, which is 510. This item number's changed since then. This is there's a 510 there, and then there's a 5100, then there's a 5200. This is a 5300, so this is a newer version of that black motor, which is the Sport Tune motor. These were great motors, because here's the regular stock motors, for the most part, were these silver cans, and they'd call them the silver can motor, which is the stock motor. You just came with all the cars, and then you get the super hop-up ones. You're getting into this class of motor. You could get replacement tires. Obviously, I bought the tires, the spiky knobby tires that would go on the Frog or the Hornet. I bought those to go on the Grasshopper, because the Grasshopper tires, there's the Grasshopper tires there, they suck. And you can turn one of these cars, one of these buggies, you can turn it into a carpet car and put foam tires on it. You can always do that. There's that Lamborghini, that's the 80s, Lamborghini Countach 1985. Wanted the Countach body at one point. But obviously it's like, oh, that's not going to fit. And it's like, oh, a monster truck version of a Lamborghini Countach. I mean, here's the thing. Back in the 80s, you know, you were into everything. You know, you were part redneck. You were part ninja. You were part geek. You were part metalhead. You were part skater dude. You know, you were everything. You were punk. You were everything. You were, if you were a kid back in the 80s, you were into everything. You know, you weren't just, and it wasn't just like the redneck kids, you know, with the redneck families doing redneck things. You know, it wasn't like the rich kids or the nerdy kids that, you know, knew about computers. For the most part, everybody was everything back then. You know, everything wasn't broken down into these little cliques as much as they are today. You know, there weren't the goth kids. You weren't the emo kids. You know, there weren't the, you know, there was the jocks, there was the burnouts, there was the nerds, there was you know, all that stuff, you know, was there, but everybody had a toe in everything for the most part, you know. And even if some of the jock kids, You know, they probably wouldn't admit to it back then, but I bet you they still had some G.I. Joes in their bedroom. Maybe, maybe not. I think some of them might have. You know, some of these kids might be dipping their, you know, their fingers in Dungeons and Dragons, you know. All the stuff was kind of, it was all there, you know, and it's just you were into this stuff as a kid. You know, it seemed like you had endless possibilities of things you could get into. I see there's a meat there. There's some more trucker hats. Redneck dads and their trucker hats and their redneck sons. All having fun. There's Bob right there's Earl drinking his Schlitz. brought his lawn chair and his Schlitz and his RC car. Gonna have some fun that afternoon. Yeah, look at they got campers and stuff out there. They're hardcore back then. You know, they brought the moms out. Sure, they didn't want to be there. Brought the wife. We got to bring the trophy wifey poo and show her off too. There you go. Sorry, I get into my own. I like to. This is why I don't read. Is because I can make up stories all on my own just by looking at pictures. You know, I know what's going on in these people's heads. At least I think I do. Here's the back cover to it. I love this catalog. My buddy, the buddy who I got traded the big trade for, he still has these catalogs. I haven't been over there in a while, but I used to go and sit on his toilet and read them all the time too. So, good toilet material. Yeah, I'm just going to show you just a couple of quick things here, and I've kind of gone over a lot. You know, let's just show a couple of things. So, in 2006, I graduated college. Remember, I was older. And I ended up moving to Washington, D.C. for a while. And while I was there, I wanted to get into radio control stuff again. And I wanted to do it right this time, and I wanted to go with and join a club and do some. This is when I tried the carpet racing, and I can't do it. I tried the dirt racing. It was a little bit more fun. But again, I sucked at it, and I really didn't feel like getting any better at it. So I just kind of lost interest in it. I still loved the cars and playing with them, you know. But here's two cars that I had there. The first one, this is the carpet car I tried out. And this is a Tamiya kit, because this is a newer as in 20 years old Tamiya, and that's a Fatuba pistol grip. That's not the Tamiya one. You can see that there's the battery pack over here. But I bought this car and put this together. I thought this looked really cool, and then kind of got into this and got back into doing the carpet racing at this one shop that had a track. It was like a club meet area. And, you know, again, everybody seemed very standoffish. Everybody seemed kind of be a douchebag. So I didn't really make any friends there, and it just, I don't know, it's weird. If you're a dude and you're not a kid, you know, or you're not even a young dude, like a college-age kid, you go to a lot of places where there's a bunch of dudes hanging out, and you would think, you know, hey, I'll meet some friends, right? You're new to the area, don't have a lot of friends there, you meet people. They're all dicks. They're all standoffish dicks. You know what I mean? That unless you were friends with them a long time ago, they don't really want to be your friend. That's what I found in my experience. And I've tried my experience with a lot of stuff. I know a lot of people join clubs and they meet wives and husbands and la-ti-da and all this stuff. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the dick. Maybe I'm the one that's the problem. But I don't know. I just found everybody to be just not friendly. You know, playing Dungeons and Dragons, I found some people friendly. They were a little bit more friendly than the douchebags that did this stuff, but I found them not that friendly either. You know, I don't know. Just join. That's why I don't join clubs, and I don't go out, and I don't leave the house really much, and you know, and try to meet friends and stuff. Let alone, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, go out and try to meet women. They're not gonna join this kind of club. But I don't know. I'm just in my old age, I've just become this crotchety old, you know, curmudgeon that's, you know, become very antisocial in my old age, which I used to be very social. But here's that car. some close up. There's the old place. I still lived there. I still wish I did. It was way too expensive to live in Washington D.C., but I really liked kind of the setup I had. But it was not going to last for various reasons. So it'd be nice to be back there. But nice deck in the backyard, barbecue out there. Nice fancy. I'm not even going to get into my convertible I had at the car I had at the time. But yeah, I mean that's one of the cars. There was the inside guts of it. This is a belt-driven car. It's 4-wheel drive. Like I said, there's the foam tires for the carpet track. That's pretty neat. I had a lot of fun with it. That was weird. There was photos there. And then I also bought this one. Now this is a Team Associated buggy. This is a 2-wheel drive, but this is more of a modern. These are like the old buggies from the 80s. I mean, they still make them, and most of the people buy them are buying them for nostalgia purposes. Most people don't race these. They're pretty much for collecting only and nostalgia. Most people go with a modern car, whether it's Traxxas. This is a Team Associated I had, which the B4 was essentially the newer equivalent of the RC10 at the time. And then I went to a dirt track, and I ran the same thing. Different people, douchebags. I don't know. I just didn't get along with anybody. But that was that car that I had when I was there. So I tried to get back into it, do it right this time, and I just had another bad experience with it. And I love the cars. I love the hobby. I love putting them together. I love. There's without the body on it. There's that electric speed control I was telling you about. There's the receiver. We called it the brain. But yeah, I love the hobby, but I love the stuff. But I don't know. Just not never fit in with the people. So there was that. All right, last thing I want to hit you with, because it's been an hour now. I've been gabbing for an hour. Is let me just hit you with the. I took all my Masters of the Universe stuff and I set it up just to kind of show you, and I'll show you something cool I got that you can't see because it's right up there. But here is my here's my current office / bedroom right now, and I got this cool ghost. It's from the 7 Inches of Satanic Panic, the tapestry, the nylon tapestry. I got that the other day, or over the weekend. I needed to fill it. It's 4 feet by 4 feet, so it fills up that section perfectly and throws up a lot of color on the wall, so I like that. Looks nice, especially next to all the toys. Very colorful stuff. Here's right where you see how I'm standing here. This is the desk right there, so it's usually where I sit in this chair. You guys are seeing me from this angle here from the camera. And then there's the Snake Mountain. It's still, I folded it up, but it's still in its temporary spot for now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it exactly. There's the cabinet with all the figures. There's my gray skull, yada yada yada. I've got I put the box up there and right up there for right now on the one shelf. I took this panoramic shot of my room just so you can kind of see. It's all like, it's not as big as this. The camera's an optical illusion, but see, you walk in my door and there's my corner office, my window, my guitar, my stereo, all that stuff here, my bed, lamps. There's all the Star Wars retros up there on the wall. Back to the closet area. So I just wanted to show. I just took those pictures. Figured you might want to see it. There's another picture of the tapestry. But here I set up out in the dining room table. I set up all my 2 castles and all the dudes, just to kind of take some pictures of it, so you guys could see everything together. Yeah, all the stuff doesn't fit on the table very well. I have a leaf for this table, but I don't have any room to put it out. My son was there too. He's hiding under the table. You can see his feet there. I'll show you this little video here. Just kind of go across the show all the stuff. There's the Eagle Talon. You can see I got. You'll see. I'll flip around the inside too. I've got the that exclusive set for the like the Ghost of Grey Skull, and you'll see the dungeon with the little tentacle thing way down there, and then the armor guy up there. I'm pointing at it like as in you can see my finger pointing, but you see the little guy there in the corner. It looks like my house is a wreck. I see my radio control car over there. And there's some bad guys. There's the inside of Snake Mountain. So I just figured I shot a little video just to kind of show you some of that. Go back to some more. Looks like I got the pictures, which I think you might be able to see a little bit better. There's that guy there. Yeah, that's the guy I was talking about. But everything's all jammed in here because, like I said, there's not enough room on this table. I can see my room in there. One of these days, I guess I'll do a tour of my my apartment. Show you how small it is. Show you how I've just got every little spot I can get is taken up with something. My tiny little kitchen. But yeah, so just wanted to show you that real quick. Also, I wanted to. I'll get into the Ghost thing later. But I'm going to do a video on the other album that I got, Imperius or Impera. I'll probably do that video next. I know you're getting hit with a lot of records and a lot of Ghost lately, but I've just been really into them lately a lot. So, and getting the records and stuff like that. See, I got another shirt up there that I ordered. It's a matching shirt to the record. That's what I've been doing. I've been buying the record and buying the shirt. And I'm limiting myself to one every Friday. So I got one, I ordered it Friday, and it came over the weekend. And now I'm not ordering another one until this Friday. So I'm trying to pace myself on those. Like I said, I gotta cut back on my spending too. It's getting a little out of control. Not that I spend a lot, but I gotta brace myself for a couple of financial things coming up here in the future. So I try to save some more money. But so for right now, sorry, I'm up on the screen and still looking at the screen. Yeah. So tomorrow this will go out tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll probably do that album and hit you with that one, and then I don't know what I'm going to do next. Like I said, I never know until it comes around time to do the video, and then I'll pick something and then I'll do it. But yeah, if you like this stuff, help me grow the channel, subscribe. I know it's all over the place. I know we've gone from radio control cars to comic books to this to that, but this is just all of the stuff that I'm into outside of like my work. All of my work's pretty much. I said I draw comic books for a living, and that's pretty much my work. But like I said, I'm not gonna. This videos are supposed to be more about like everything else, And like I said, I like to tell stories about things that happened, that all tie into this stuff and why I like this stuff, and how it all kind of fits together. So if you like that type of thing and you're interested in this stuff, or maybe you're a fan of my comics and you just want to know a little bit more about me, just like and subscribe. Help me build the channel up. Like I said, I'm not, like 82 subscribers now, so I'm on my way. I need 1,000 to get monetized. So hopefully that'll happen sometime soon. And it'll be an extra little stream of revenue, and then I can buy more junk to fit in the apartment that's too small to fit anything. So. Yeah. Alright. It's been almost an hour and 10 minutes, so I'm going to let you go. Alright, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.